Hello and welcome to the Quarterback in Your Life podcast. I am your host, Keenan Reynolds, joined today by my co-host, as usual, Mr. Che Mark, and we have a new face. As we start season 2 of the Quarterback in Your Life podcast, we put our heads together and started to really kind of think about where we wanted to take this podcast, Che. And we really wanted to find some type of like center. What's the point? Like, what are we really trying to do? What's our thesis? And one of the things that we kind of agreed on was really having a spiritual undertone in everything that we talk about. And as we talked about last week at the end of the first season, we talked about, our faith. We talked about, purpose. And so that kind of was the catalyst for us to have this conversation. And, Che, why don't you talk about some more kind of what we decided to do, who we decided to bring in to help us accomplish this vision and just kind of add on to the next phase of quarterback in your life.
I'm so excited that we get to go and put 2020 behind us first and foremost. We're transitioning into that new period and bringing exactly to that and bringing in new life and perspective. Yes, like we talked about, we wanted to bring in a spiritual undertone, but also to be able to help us engage in sort of drawing this picture, this framework for the audience, and bringing in practicality, spirituality into the dialogue of business and quarterbacking one's life. So I thought through sort of my group of friendships of people that I know in and around Nashville and the surrounding areas, and in comes, after several pieces of vetting, comes Mr. James Dutton. So I will let him introduce himself, but someone who I valued and I can sell to the audience from a friendship standpoint, someone who helps me bring in perspective outside of the routine business and sport that I've sort of inundated myself in for a while, helps me bring in perspective in another facet. So James, please introduce yourself into the audience and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here with both of you gentlemen. It's a privilege also to give my perspective and bring to bear whatever I have to offer. Try to do just a quick introduction of myself. It's a little bit difficult because I've kind of been all over. When I was 18, I was homeless. I was bouncing from couch to couch. I met God in a kitchen from a place that I was dealing drugs out of as an athlete, collegiate athlete. And then I was introduced to who God was. He took me on a different course. I started my way into ministry because I wanted to be what I didn't have, which was a mentor to people who were misguided and confused and weren't bad, but just made bad decisions. And so I was in ministry on and off for 5 years. I did 3 internships in different parts of the country, went to a couple different Bible colleges, studied theology, organizational leadership, decided I was going to move on from ministry because it didn't pay exactly the way that I needed to build a family, and found myself in consulting and found myself in sales and really just found myself in a transitional point in life, being a millennial. I'm 26 right now. So I'm learning in this new day and age and growing and finding new relationships and finding myself and a generation that's full of information and trying to figure out which way to go. I've been guided by who I spend my time with and who I behold, being who my God is and who speaks into my life. And so I'm excited what we're going to do here. I think we got a lot of good stuff coming up based on our conversations for season 2. So fired up.
Man, and before I pass it back to you, Keenan, I thought it also so valuable for the audience that we're trying to reach, with you being 27 for a few more days, for 4 more days exactly, actually.
26 for 4 more days.
26.
Hey,
26, yeah.
Hey, I'm 26 for about 20 more days.
Hey, so
we got birthdays.
We got two birthdays coming up, but both of you guys being as young as you are, with that perspective that you guys can both offer such literally different backgrounds that have formed into a development of, I think, 2 people that have very similar mind frames of what makes and creates success. And so, Keenan, I'm thrilled by it. I'm happy to be here, back for season 2. Happy that we're bringing James into the equation, to the fold, and I think this is going to be an exciting podcast.
100%, man. And I really liked kind of the format that we ended the first season on, which we were really kind of just wide open and authentic. And as we said in that podcast, we felt that we have our best conversations that happen organically. But one of the things that, as we kind of mulled about, where are we going to go from here? What are we going to talk about? One of the things that's kind of the bedrock of society today, and honestly, I feel is somewhat of a lost art in the day-to-day life, is relationships. As I think over my life, as I think over where I've been, the opportunities that I've been so fortunate to have been afforded, it has nothing to do with, I don't think, my qualifications. I don't think if you stack up my resume with, somebody that went to, Harvard Business School or something, if you on paper it may not look all that impressive. I mean, yeah, I've done some cool things in college, but some of the places that I've had the opportunity to reach into and have opportunities to be a part of has been solely due to relationships. This podcast was born
Yeah.
out of a relationship. And then I mean, everything that I've done on the sports side professionally has had a large impact and has been really, I don't know, changed and molded and shaped by our relationship, Che. And I remember, I distinctly remember my dad. I came home for Christmas break after my bowl game, and my dad was, he was setting.
I've never heard this. I'm excited to hear.
So my dad was setting up agent meetings, and I'm trying to figure out, who I'm gonna go with an agent. He's like, yeah, man, I've been talking to a few people. He's like, I want you to talk to this guy, Che Mock. He's out of Clarksville, black guy, young. I think you should, talk to him. I'm like, well, who does he have? And he really couldn't answer the question. And I was just like, all right, well, I just was like, whatever. So I kind of put it on the back burner. So fast forward, I went to a few meetings, and I'm talking to these people, and they're like, yeah, you had a great career in college, but the people that we're talking to, they say you may be a 7th round. More than likely, you're going to be a camp guy. And so we can't pay for your training, So I was kind of taken aback. I'm like, well, why are we even meeting? You don't even believe in me enough to pay for me to get ready for my pro day. And so I remember going to Baker Donaldson downtown to meet with you and Jimmy, and y'all played this super corny video, super corny intro video, and I'm looking at it like, look at these dudes. Like it was cringeworthy to all of our podcast fans. It was terrible. The quality was great, but it was just super corny. But it was funny to me. But to be honest with you, like when we had the conversation, when I was sitting in there, I see you, I see Jimmy, I see two people that were hungry like me. I see two people that had something to prove like me. Two people that were very, very smart. They were well prepared. The presentation, besides the corny video, was first class. I just felt comfortable, and when we talked, you guys weren't unreachable. It was like we were peers. It wasn't like I didn't feel like, you guys were going to try to big time me. It felt like you guys were putting all your eggs in the Keenan Reynolds basket. And I genuinely felt humbled and grateful for that. So looking back on that moment, man, looking back on that meeting, I told back and forth. It was between you guys and a more experienced agent who had represented Barry Sanders, Jerome Bettis, some of the greats. And he was offering the same thing you guys were. And I'm sitting here juggling these opportunities. And I'm like, man, I don't really know what I'm going to do. I was like, I think I'm going to go with the young, hungry dudes, like, because I just feel good about them. And they're in Nashville too. Like, let's make it do what it do. And then now the rest is history. A lot of great things have come about. A lot of that first year, I felt like we were always on the road doing some sort of marketing for a 6th round pick to get some of the deals that I got. Crazy. I was driving a free car in Baltimore. Nobody on the team was doing that. Like Che made all that happen. So, I think relationship wise, we started off definitely professional. But as that trust was built continuously over the time and through the ups and downs, through, getting cut, through, moving up, moving down. I mean, all kinds of different things. I definitely think our relationship is one to think about and model when you think about some building friendships that can also be profitable for you on the business side, but that run deeper than just how much money can you make me.
Man, and I think it's so remarkable that you ended up picking us. And
can I ask you why you did, Keenan? Why was it? Was it they're hungry? Was it because they believed in you? What was it that made
it was kind of like I said, it was a combination of all of that. You know what I'm saying? I think it was because, like, to be honest with you, I distinctly remember playing hardball with them on the phone, and they were letting me negotiate. And, you know, when I look back on it, they kind of won that negotiation now that I'm more business savvy. Uh, but you know, they made me feel like I just felt, I don't know, I just felt at home, man. It just felt like, you know what, these are the dudes I need to be with. Because like it was really cool, to be honest with you, to be, you know, somebody that they were putting they wanted to put all this money behind me, all this effort behind me to get their new agency off the ground. You know, I felt honored to be a part of that.
Hmm.
And I've always been somebody to always want to buck the norm. I don't ever want to kind of follow the trend. And going with ESQ was against the trend. I mean, that was the unsafe pick, but that was the best pick I could have made.
Hmm.
And you know, I'm glad you asked him that, because I was hoping that'd be the answer. And what's so remarkable, James, is that the value of relationship is key, because but for Keenan Reynolds, I'm not put on. I literally that year, when I was putting together that corny pitch deck that you talked about, I the night before.
Do you have that? I feel like we need to play that for the people. We need to put that back on. We can pull out the archive.
At some point down the road, we have
Oh man.
but I don't want to give too much to the other agents. But I literally had spent all night the night before, and I was still practicing full time at a law firm, and I remember telling my partners, if we don't build a relationship with this guy, like there's too many disappointments that I could see down the road. Like,
wow,
there's just a development of just too much work, energy, and effort for all this uncertainty that you're living in.
Well, what did you see in him?
Oh, I saw a killer. I'd like unequivocally, I saw a dude like from this, because I didn't, and you know, so I've never told him this. So 2 months before I knew who Keenan Reynolds was, I didn't know who Keenan Reynolds was. Like 2 months before, actually, then because I didn't grow up. I grew up in Tennessee. I didn't grow up watching anything other than SEC football. Didn't watch that. So finally, you know, I get through another person, one of his good friends that we were also recruiting, who we had actually been in the fold, been down to the city that this young man was playing in. And I'll say it, one of Keenan's best friends, Jalen Ramsey, another person we were recruiting. We had put a lot of eggs into the collective basket of that. And then we realized, okay, there's a relationship, right? There's a relationship between Jalen and Keenan. And what happened was, because Jalen was so high profile at the time, I think he felt safer in that safe zone of knowing that he had the guy who had represented the Barry Sanders or those people of the world,
right.
You know? And so it put him in a position where he did feel comfortable with us, but the relationship we developed with him and his father translated to a relationship that his father could then pass to Keenan's father to say, hey, you need to talk to these guys. I don't know if my was going to sign with them, but you guys are missing out on an opportunity if you don't talk to these guys. They're for real.
Yeah, I honestly, you know, when you say that, it makes me think about going back to your question, James, of like why you picked him. And to be honest with you, it started with Lamont. Shout out to him. I trusted him. I trusted his opinion. I still do to this day. He had trained me from as long as I can remember. I spent many all seasons in NFL training with him. So like what he said, like when I had no idea, me and my dad, we didn't know nothing about this agent game, but Lamont was already doing the dirty work because he knew, you know, Jalen was going to be a first round pick. I didn't really know NFL was in my future until like maybe 6 or 7 months before the draft. So for me and my pops, we hadn't really been doing no due diligence, but you know, like I said, Jalen was primed to go first, you know, top 5 like he did. So when, you know, like Che said, when he came and said what he said to my dad, that made me feel comfortable with the fact that even though these guys don't have any high profile guys, they don't have nothing to really like show for it. If Lamont wanted to, he's gonna shoot you straight. One thing about him, he's gonna tell you like it is. He's not gonna, you know, BS you. And if he says these dudes is good, I trusted him because of the relationship that me and him had built. So it's just a web of these different relationships that kind of led to that the marriage that is Keenan Reynolds and ESQ.
There's a couple questions I have real fast. There's a couple ways we can go with this. I mean, I'm hearing the word trust over and over and over again. There's something that had been built in different areas in the different relationships that you both had with different individuals. But one thing I'd like to key in on for a second is it sounds like there was a certain element of risk that you had to kind of assess and be like, okay, I'm going to take a risk on these guys. I'm going to take a chance on these guys. These guys, you know, you said they weren't your first choice. Number one, you had an option that had all these reputable clients already, and you decided I wanted to go with the underdog. I want to go with someone who, had the corny video, didn't have a proven track record, but they believed in me. Number one, I guess a couple of questions I have is why is it important? Why is it important to have people around you who believe in you? And why is it important to take risks, even though it doesn't always add up sometimes? Because it sounds like both of those factored in.
Yeah. So the risk point, I'll draw a comparison to something that's applicable today in the investment world, right? So if you want to be safe, you can invest in bonds. Bonds are yielding less than 1%, which after inflation is negative yield. So pretty much you're putting your money there and it's not really doing nothing for you, right? But if you go into equities, a little more risky, you could lose a little bit of money. Things could go south, but you have a much higher chance of blowing the roof off of your investment and returning, who knows, depending on where you put your money. So that's before I even knew what stocks and bonds were. That's the mindset that I kind of had. I was like, I really don't want to go with a safe pick. I want to go with the guys that showed me that we're gonna make this thing work. Because the way I looked at it was they believed in me, so I should return the favor. They didn't have to believe in me. I was a triple option quarterback trying to change to wide receiver at the top level. They could have said the same thing that some of these other agents had kind of said to me of like, we don't know if you're gonna get drafted. You might be late 7, undrafted free agent. These guys never worried. They were like, look, 4 to 7, man. We think you can be a day 3 pick for sure. Like, I'd be very surprised if you don't get drafted. So the amount of, and then they were willing to pay for my training.
Did them believing in you make you believe in you more?
For sure. I mean, I had always had confidence in myself, but to have people in your corner that can affirm affirm your beliefs and be like, hey, listen, I see this. And they don't know me from Adam. And yes, they're trying to win my business. But at the end of the day, as I said multiple times, it's nothing for an agent to be like, this is what I've been told. You know what I'm saying? So they stepped out on a limb for me and realized, we want to put our effort toward this person and make this thing work. So they had just as much to lose with me making it as I did. And so when somebody's got as much skin in the game as you do, that builds that trust. Like,
so there's risk on both ends here. There's risk on both ends.
Exactly. So from another financial comparison, if you look at if you're running a fund and you don't have any money in that fund, then you're in CYA. You're just trying to make sure you're good. But if you put your own hardworking funds into your investment pool, you're going to make sure that you do everything possible to make the best returns on that investment. And because you are just as exposed as the people that you're asking to trust you. So you kind of have to trust yourself. So from that perspective, that's kind of how ESQ approached it. And that drew a lot of respect from me. And then like the actual interpersonal trust between me and Che, me and Jimmy, that grew over time. That's something that no matter how many relationships you have, that's just good old fashioned time spent, action. That's the only way, you get in the door. And once you're in the door, now you have to kind of garner that trust between each other.
So Che, from what he just said, what was it like for you to understand that he's taking a risk on you, you're taking a risk on him, you believe in him, and now he's believing in you. You had a client, you had a young man who's putting his confidence in you, he's putting his career in your hands. But at the same time, like if we just boil it down, he believed in you. What did that do to you?
Well, first it was, candidly, it was an overwhelming burden in the sense, and I don't mean this in a negative connotation, but like I felt every day that I had to do better because I had all of he makes such a great analogy of like, if you're invested in the fund, you got to make sure that the fund succeeds,
right,
or you lose your investment.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so the mere fact that we had a meeting of the minds initially, like, yo, listen, like, I trust you, bro. Yeah. Like, and so
because you had trustworthy relationships beforehand, you had taken care of people in your life.
In our lives, yeah. I mean, this dude, all of a sudden, it's like I had a new brother. Like it was all of a sudden like I had another, like a little brother that was relying on me to make sure I did him right, and I had no choice because I told him so.
Right.
And that trust, I didn't want to breach that trust.
Yeah.
So there was so valuable to me. The relationship was so valuable to me that I thought to myself, okay, I've got to make sure that I go above and beyond. And so the result of it was magical. All of a sudden, and he'll tell you this, there's one prime example. You know the example I'm going to bring up, how we got the apparel deal. But all of this built itself and started to grow and grow and grow before I knew it. I mean, we made, and this is no exaggeration, and then, I mean, the Nashville Business Journal wrote an article about it. We made more money, or as much money almost year one on marketing than he made playing in the NFL. Yeah. I mean, we had so much money in deals. And I mean, I'm talking, we had the best contract ever for a 6th-round draft pick.
Under Armour.
Yeah. It was because he had a and this is trust. Okay. Let me give you an example of trust. He had a ceremony in Virginia that was honoring it was Maryland, Virginia, mixed of the two, and it was honoring athletes and entrepreneurs in the space. So there was 4 honorees. There was a high school football player who was like the either Maryland or Virginia Player of the Year. There was Keenan Reynolds, who 4th runner-up for the Heisman Trophy. Navy starting quarterback 4 years, broke every record under the sun. Jersey retired. There's Lee Corso, and Kevin Plank. All right. 4 pretty solid people. Yeah. He tells me, hey, I've got this award ceremony. I see who's getting honored. Kevin Plank's one of them. Kevin Plank at the time was worth $3 or $4 billion. So I see Kevin Plank's going to be there. This is trust. Now, this is the highest level of trust. I called him, Keenan. I said, hey, make sure you get me a ticket to that event, because if Kevin Plank's going to be there, you're going to get an Under Armour deal. I said, it doesn't make any sense. And he was like, what you mean, for real? I was like, bro, listen. I was like, and again, because I had that promise to him, that I had the relationship, Lamont talked me up, I talked me up, like, bro, I can't say this to this man and not go get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had no choice at this point now, right? Because I put myself on blast. So I was like, give me a ticket. He's like, I got you. I'll get you a ticket. So I booked the flight, my own dime, right? And I'm keep in mind, like, I left my firm now. All of my eggs are sort of in this basket. Wow. I booked my own ticket. I get to the show. I book my own hotel, everything else. Like, we have limited funds available, but I'm like, all right, I got to get this deal. I got this deal. So I researched Kevin Plank. I go ham. I'm like, all right, I need to know, I need to know what his wife looks like. I need to know what he likes to do, blah, 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 blah. Like, what his background is. I need to know if there's ever been any connecting point that I've ever had in the history of, like, going to school and internships and everything else. I got to know. I got to know who Under Armour works with, who they've been working with, who they work with closely in the NFL, et cetera, et cetera. So I go, I'm uber prepared. All right. I get there. I spot Kevin Plank. All right. This is right before the ceremony's about to go in. He's there talking to his wife. I know what his wife looks like. Right. Mm-hmm. So I make a point, beeline, already know her name, say hello, gracious introduction, everything else. Then I have a prepared deck that I give to him. I said, Keenan Reynolds needs to be one of your clients. Mm. And I said, Keenan Reynolds? He said, of course I do. He's quarter Navy, he's here tonight. But I said, yeah, listen, I said, remarkable young man, better talent, going to get drafted. I said, I guarantee you he's going to get drafted. He said, well, that's great. We don't do contracts like this. You need to talk to, like, my regional guy. And I was like, well, I felt like if I was going to talk to anybody, I need to talk to you because you own the company. I told Kevin Plank that. Wow. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, and he kind of was like taken aback, like, who is this dude? I was like, listen,
fired up.
Yeah. I was like, listen, sir. I was like, in all due respect, I just wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to get in front of you so you could see what the value of this man is. I said, watch him at every moment tonight. Mm. Every moment tonight. I said, see if he does anything that you wouldn't want to have as a representative of your company. And so what's funny, after that, I had his card. I emailed him. Okay. I didn't hear back. 5 days go by. Didn't hear back. 2 weeks go by. Didn't hear back. Now, keep in mind, when I'm making these points, the 5 days, I emailed him again. 2 weeks, I emailed him again. Yep. 3rd week, I emailed him again. Yep. 4th week, I get a call from a regional manager. Says, hey, by the way, ran into Kevin on campus. He's getting your email. He's getting your emails.
Yeah, okay, bro, I got you.
He's getting your emails. He goes, my name's Kendall. He goes, he's like, from here on out, stop emailing Kevin. He said, here's my number.
I bet he regretted you giving his card.
Yeah. He goes, here's my number. He said, call me. Okay. Email me what your proposal is. Yep. Keep in mind, I'm a lawyer dealing in commercial real estate and finance. who comes from a big law firm doing $3 million to $5 billion mergers and acquisitions. I didn't know what an Under Armour sports apparel contract would look like.
These new waters.
Yeah. So I call everybody I know in the industry, which is not many people because I'm new to the sports agency industry.
Yeah.
I get the details and insight, but I was prepared at the moment. And a part of that preparation was because I knew that he had entrusted me to follow through on my word. So I didn't have any other choice. Right. And you know, we bring in the spiritual sort of connection to it. One of the things that resonated with, I think, Keenan as well was my partner Jimmy. You know, and it is extremely spiritual and also incredibly genuine into his word and how he approaches everything and every task. And I think we were all able to connect at a different level, other than just having the acumen for wanting to succeed.
You also had the same values.
We had the same values.
You had the same value proposition. You had the same absolute truth that you adhered to. You had the same doctrine that you built your life around.
That's right. And
so we've got about 4 minutes left before we're going to wrap up here. So unless y'all decide you want to go a little bit longer, but if we're going to wrap this up, I just want to ask you guys. So what I've been hearing here, I mean, in summary, I'm hearing determination. I'm hearing trust. I'm hearing risk. I'm hearing investing in your relationships and stewarding them. I'm hearing boldness. I'm hearing fearlessness to embark, you know, into waters that we've never, or you have never gone into before. There's so much fodder for us to build the rest of this season. I think that each and every single one of the next episodes could be on trust, could be on, you know, taking risk, investing, and all these different things. We've covered a lot. Yeah, so in 60 seconds, Keenan, pick one of these. Pick one and break it down about what some key takeaways and some ways to apply it. Talk about either trust, taking risk, or investing in your relationships.
Yeah, no doubt. I wanted to, you know, kind of bring it all together because the people will be listening like, okay, so you're telling us all these cool things about each other. Like, what's the whole point of this? How does this apply to me?
Yeah.
But ultimately,
that's what you want to know more.
But ultimately, I feel like the big point is whatever you were intending to embark on, whether it be business, school, professional athletics, cultivating high quality relationships will take you a lot further than anything you can put on your resume or any accomplishment you can individually make. So if there's only one thing that we carry from here, and again, we can go longer and we could probably go for days on this, but for brevity's sake, if there's one thing that we can kind of highlight with this thing, and the whole point of us telling this entire story of how we met, why our relationship is important, it's just that it's extended far beyond its intended purpose. When you cultivate high relationships, genuine relationships, they tend to go further than you can imagine. Yeah. You know, to the point where I'm calling Che when I'm buying a house. He's telling me the ins and outs because of his real estate career.
Didn't he say a bad deal?
We were gonna go in on a deal together, and I trusted Che and his expertise to put us in the best situation, and he got us out before we got, you know, kind of screwed by the whole situation. So I mean, the list is long of things, of ways that we've been able to help each other. Now that I've transitioned in my life out of athletics, I plan to kind of provide that same sort of help to him that he's been to me. But the point is, at the end of the day, whatever your high quality relationships are, continuing to build them, continuing to invest in them, continuing to have skin in the game with them, and they'll go way beyond whatever their initial purpose was.
Man, so long story short, invest in your relationships, steward your relationships well, and then it'll take you far in life.
Yes, sir.
That's quick. That's great. So Che, and give us a 60-second breakdown. You can pick one or all between trust. What should we know? Which way to summarize it, apply it? Trust, importance of taking risk, or the importance of investing, stewarding your relationships.
You know, I can conflate those things because trusting and taking risk can go hand in hand when you're dealing with the right people.
Yeah.
And then that obviously dealing with the right people then makes you steward the relationship.
Right.
Right. So I think you can conflate that if you're willing to take risk and you approach every task that you take, you should do it like it's the most important assignment of your entire life. And if you do it like that, then it's not as much of a risk because you're putting all of your energy and effort, and that's going to be equally received if you're with the right people.
Yep.
And you put and stewarded the right relationships. So build that framework, of trust, stewarding the right relationships so that you can take risk. I'll connect the 3 points, right? I wouldn't go out and take risk with somebody that I don't think is trustworthy, because they're going to leave me high and dry when things get tough.
For sure.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. That's a cliche term, but man, is it not true? In every movie we ever watch, when we're watching, like, when Rocky in the 6th movie, the one that came out, more recently, he says, when somebody hits you, they knock you down, you got to get up. Yeah. You got to keep going. That's what living is.
Up, dude.
That's what living
is.
The
tiger.
Right? that's the going gets tough. The tough that's what that is. So I think if you build and steward the right relationships, that's going to build the toughness. And then when you have those people around you, you can be willing to take the risk. I wouldn't advise anyone to take too many risks without having key components around you that can help you assess that. So steward those relationships so you can do that and build that trust.
Man, I feel blessed by this. I want to throw in one tidbit for us. I mean, we wanted this to be practical. We wanted it to be intellectual. We wanted it to be spiritual, though. So I'd say, if there's anybody out there, whether you are a believer or not, whether you're a Christian, a Buddhist, Islam, whatever it is, if you read the book of Proverbs, because all 3 of us here are Christians, you read the book of Proverbs, what we've been talking about here, essentially, if we capsulated this, we're talking about a divine flow. Keenan and Che both had to utilize wisdom, discernment, and trust and faith in order to make the decision that they made. If you want a book that's going to give you some biblical, theological insight into how to steward your life, book of Proverbs. If you break that word down, it's proverb, professional verb action, proverb, and like for real. So however way you look at it or slice it, Proverbs was written by Solomon, who was the wisest man in the Bible. God asked him, what do you want? You can have anything. And he said, I want wisdom. And so God said, because you asked for that, I'm going to give you I'm going to make you the wisest man who ever lived. And I'm also going to make you the wealthiest. So he got both because he chose wisdom. So my encouragement is, if you want some of what is being talked about here, go to Proverbs. It's going to talk about money. It's going to talk about relationships. It's going to talk about romantic, platonic, professional relationships. They're going to talk about how to treat your neighbor. It's going to talk about how to steward your life and how to be successful. And so that's my spiritual tidbit for the night. And
does it drive along in Proverbs? It absolutely drives along the importance of the relationships, right?
100%. 100%. It tells you to take note, take inventory of who is in your life. Solomon really, essentially, he kind of puts people in different categories: the wise and the foolish, the righteous and the wicked. And so essentially you get to look at what will come, the fruit, if you will, the fruit of being wise or foolish, righteous or wicked. You get to see the trajectory of both of those people. And so what we've heard here is the product, the fruit of what it is to be wise and righteous, in your relationships, or else you two wouldn't be sitting here today.
I love it.
And so, I mean, last thing I want to say is,
oh man,
audio ain't good enough.
All right, Keenan, what we got, man? No, I'm so excited. I'm so excited about season 2, man. But go ahead, Keenan.
For sure, man. I mean, I think this is a great way to kick it off, and we'll just see where this goes, man. I'm really looking forward to what we can build, what we can do. This new direction we have, this new foundation that we have, is going to push all of us to grow, and we'll see what we have in store for next week's episode. Before we take a holiday break. So without further ado, this is the Quarterback in Your Life podcast signing off.